Good morning, dear students of 11th class, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all are well. You know that we are doing right form of verbs, and this is my third class on this grammatical item. In your previous two classes, we learnt something about the right form of verbs, and as far as I can remember, in my immediate previous class, I discussed where to use the present form or the base form of main verbs. And today I have selected a very important grammatical item in English grammar, that is where to use the continuous form of verbs, present participle form of verbs, and gerund of verbs. Gerund, where to use the continuous, present participle, and gerund. These are very critical, of course, and sometimes students complain that these are very confusing and difficult. So I draw your attention. I try to understand, as our time is limited, only 30 minutes. So it is difficult to explain within this short period. Still, I will try to explain something. I hope that you will be able to be benefited from our today's class. The confusing fact is that all these form of grammatical items, that is continuous form, present participle and gerund, they look alike. All these three items look alike, that is continuous. The continuous form of verbs take ing at the end. As in our previous classes, I wrote as many as 48 sentences on this board, depending on different forms of tenses. And we found that all the continuous forms of main verbs take ing at the end. Number one. Number two, present participle also takes ing form. So how can we differentiate between continuous form of verb and the present participle? Because they look alike, exactly they look alike in their form. And then gerund also looks like the previous two items, that is continuous and present participle. So they all these three items, they look alike, that is they are same in their form, and all these three items take ing at the end. So we get confused very naturally. Yes, of course, it is really, they are really confusing because they look alike. So how can we differentiate? And is there at all differences among these three items? Of course, they look like in their form. On the surface level, they look like in their appearance. They are same in their appearance, of course, but they are different in their function. And how they are different, how can they be differentiated? I am going to explain today. So just try to understand carefully. These are very important items in English grammar. So I have written three sentences here just to explain these three items. The first sentence is, I am getting late to office, let's hurry up. Here I have used getting, that is the main verb is get, and I have used ing at the end. So I am getting late to office, let's hurry up. The first sentence, here getting. Then getting late to office is what I hate, let's hurry up. Almost the same sentence, and here I have used the same form, that is getting. Here is again getting. And then in the last sentence, we all should avoid getting late to office. Getting, here also I have used getting. So I am getting here three getting in three sentences, that is getting, getting, getting. All these are getting. They look alike, they're exactly the same, but they are not same in their function. They look exactly alike in their form, that is here I have used getting, here I have used the same thing, that is getting and getting. That is here the base form of main verbs, get has taken ing at the end. So we get confused. In the first sentence, I am getting late to office, let's hurry up, here this is a continuous form of verb. And then in the second sentence, getting late to office is what I get. Let's hurry up. Here this is a present participle form. This is continuous and this is a participle, and of course present participle, because participles are basically of 4 types. I am coming back there. Anyway, and then we all should avoid getting. Here this is gerund. But how can we differentiate? As I am claiming that in the first sentence the getting is the continuous form of verbs. Why? Let's try to understand their function and how they have been placed in sentence, their position in the sentence and their function in the sentence. There lies the difference. How they are differentiated? They are differentiated depending on their position in the sentence and on their function in the sentence. You cannot differentiate them from their appearance, because in appearance or in form they look exactly alike, they all are getting. So they are functioning in different ways. For example, I am getting late to office, let's hurry up. Here I am getting. Notice I am. Before getting we are using am. This is continuous form. But in 2 other cases, getting late to office, no, this getting is not governed by any auxiliary verbs. No, this getting is not governed by any auxiliary verb like this getting. So a present continuous verb or a progressive verb is governed by an auxiliary verb, but a present participle is not governed by any auxiliary verb, and this is also true in the case of this gerund. We all should avoid getting. Here we are getting no auxiliary verb, no auxiliary verb here like this. So at least one difference we are getting here, that a present continuous form of verb which takes ing and which is governed by any of the auxiliary verbs. Number 1, you must get any of the auxiliary verb if it is a continuous form of verb, because here is am. How many continuous form do we get in different forms of tenses as in our previous classes? How many continuous forms of verbs? How many continuous tenses are there? We get as many as 6 types of continuous form. For example, present continuous tense, present perfect continuous tense, past continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, future continuous tense, future perfect continuous tense. Just let me give example. Present continuous tense, I wrote in my previous class, in my first class, I am finding you. I have used am here. This is the present continuous, the example of present continuous. And then I have been finding you. Finding here, and I am finding, of course, finding, have been. This is I am finding you, this is present continuous, and I have been finding you, this is present perfect continuous tense. So as it is continuous, we have used have been and here am, and that is why I am saying that continuous, present continuous or any continuous always takes an auxiliary verb. This is one of the ways you can identify, you can differentiate a continuous form of verbs. That is, continuous forms of verbs always take ing. They are always preceded by any form of auxiliaries. That is, before continuous form of verbs, we have to use in active voice, of course, any of the auxiliary verbs. That is, continuous form of verb is always assisted or governed by the auxiliary verbs. And then let me proceed. This is present. This is continuous form in present tense. And then what about past tense? I was finding you. This is the past continuous tense, and here I have used was, and here finding. Present, this is participle. And then past perfect continuous tense, I have been finding you, finding, and here had been. And then future continuous tense, I shall be finding you, here finding, and here I have used shall be. And then future perfect continuous tense, I shall have been finding you, here again finding, and here I have used shall have been. So, what does this prove? What do all this prove? I have written all the continuous forms here: present continuous, present perfect continuous, past continuous, past perfect continuous, future perfect continuous tenses. And in all the cases, I have used any of the auxiliary verb before the main verb. Here am, here have been, here was, here had been, here shall be, here shall have been. And then I have used the ing form of main verbs. So, what is the basic nature of a continuous form? That is, a continuous form of verb always takes ing, like the present participle or gerund. But these are always governed by any of the auxiliary. In this way, you can identify. So, I am getting, as here is auxiliary verb am, so this is continuous. So, very easily you can identify what is a continuous form of verb. That is, you should notice whether there is any auxiliary verb before the ing form. If yes, then it is continuous form of main verbs. And what is the function? It is doing only one function, and that is this verb is denoting an action in progress. This type of verb takes ing, governed by an auxiliary verb, and its only function is to denote an action in progress. That is a continuity which may be still incomplete, just indicates an action which is still going on or in progress. This is the function. So, I hope that you have no more any confusion about the nature and the appearance and the function of continuous form. That is, a continuous form of verbs always takes ing, just like the present participle or the gerund. Of course, they look alike, but the difference is that a gerund or a participle is never assisted or governed by any auxiliary verb, but a continuous form of verb is always governed by an auxiliary verb, and its only function is to denote any action in progress. This is the function. The first sentence is doing that, not less than that, nor more than that. The only function is to denote any action in progress. I am getting late to office, let's hurry up. Now, pass to the second sentence, second example. I have already claimed that this is the present participle form. That is, getting late to office is what I ate, let's hurry up. So, getting late, here also ing form, but this is present participle. Why? How this getting is differentiated from this getting? What are the differences between these two gettings? This is present participle. What is the position of this getting at the beginning? Doesn't matter. Just as I have already mentioned, this getting is not governed by any auxiliary verb. No, not governed by any auxiliary verb, but it is taking ing. This getting also derives from verb, no doubt. This getting also comes from the verb get, but what is it doing? It is getting late. It is modifying late. Late is noun. What is the function of this getting? What is it doing? It is modifying the noun late. So, it is acting like an adjective. Of course, getting late. Here, getting late to office is what I hate. Here, getting is the modifier of late. This is noun. Late is the noun and getting is the modifier here. So, getting late, here late is modified by late is modified by getting. That is, here this get modifies late, and that is why though this getting derives from verb, coming from verb, as it modifies late, so it acts as an adjective, because the function, the basic function of an adjective is to modify noun or the pronoun. If you have some clear idea about the function of adjective, the nature of adjective, then it is easier for you to understand how this getting modifies this noun late. If you can understand that this getting modifies this late, then it is easier for you to understand that this getting is acting just like an adjective, because this is modifying late and this is present participle. So, how can we define a present participle? Number one, a present participle takes ing, that is, it looks like exactly the continuous form of verbs, of course, but it is different from continuous in its action, in its function. A continuous form of verb never modifies any other modifies or qualifies any other parts of speech or any other words, but a present participle, a participle, always modifies noun or pronoun. This is the function of the adjective, you know. So, when a verb takes the ing form and it acts just like an adjective, it is called participle. So, a participle, it is said that a participle is derived, a participle is formed from a verb and acts simultaneously as a verb and an adjective. This is the basic function of a participle. Here, this getting, which is a present participle, modifies this noun late, and that is why this is present participle. If you notice, this getting is not governed by any auxiliary like the first getting. When it is governed by any auxiliaries, then it becomes the present participle. Now, participle is of 4 types. I am not going to explain all those participles today, but leaving these types of participles for my future classes, still just let me write down participles. Participles are of 4 types: present participles, for example, getting, or going when they function as an adjective, and then present participle, past participle, like burnt or played, they also act like. So, participles are of three types: present participle, past participle and perfect participle. Notice perfect participle. Example, for example, having plus past participle form of main verb. Having plus past participle form. Having plus past participle form of main verb is called perfect participle. For example, having learnt the death news of her father, she burst out into tears. So, participles are of three types: present participle, which takes ing, and then past participle, for example, burnt, played, etc., and perfect participle, having plus past participle form of main verbs. That is, when you put having before the past participle form of main verbs, it becomes perfect participle. Okay, we will explain all these things in our future classes. Just remember now that participles are of three types, that is present participle, past participle and perfect participle. Anyway, so this is the present participle, and then I can also give some other examples. For example, a working woman or a burnt toast. A burnt, working. Here, a working woman, this is not continuous or gerund, but this working is a participle form of verbs, because working, it has taken ing, so it is present participle. The origin of this working is the verb work, number one, because as I have mentioned, a participle, present participle, derives from a verb. Of course, the working comes from work and then ing, but it functions as an adjective by modifying the word woman. What type of woman? A working woman. So, here working on the one hand acts as a verb, and also by modifying woman, it is also acting like an adjective, as the word working modifies the word woman. So, this is present participle. In the same way, burnt toast, this is past participle. Now, you have idea about past participle. This is past participle. It is also, this burnt also derives from the main verb burn, B-U-R-N. So, on the one hand, this is verb, and on the other hand, it is modifying the word toast, burnt toast, describing the condition of the toast. What type of toast? Burnt toast. So, burnt is also acting like an adjective. So, what is a participle? Participle is the form of what which derives from a verb and acts like an adjective. So, verb plus adjective is participle, and these participles are of three types: present participle, past participle and perfect participle. Okay, now let us move to our last sentence, that is, we all should avoid getting late to office. Getting, this is gerund. How this getting is different from this getting and this getting. This getting, we all should avoid getting late to office. Number one, this getting derives from verb, because the origin of this getting is get. So, it derives, it originates from verb, number one, but here it is functioning like a noun, because if we consider the position of this getting, we all should avoid getting late to office. Just consider the whole phrase here. Getting late to office. What is the position of this part of the sentence, of this phrase? Of course, object. You know, English is an SVO language. That is, in English, subject comes first, then comes verb, and then comes object. This is the basic structure of English grammar, English language, of course. So, English is called an SVO language, SVO language. So, this is the position of object. That is, we all is the subject, should avoid is the verb, and then S, V, and then this is object. And object is always a noun or pronoun. Okay, so here getting is in the position of object or noun. That is, here it is acting like a noun, as it is in the position of the object, and only noun and pronoun can be object. So, what we are getting here, the verb getting is derived from the origin get. So, on the one hand this is verb, and on the other hand, as it is functioning as an object, so it is noun. So, when a word which has ing at the end is derived from a verb but functions as a noun is called a gerund. So, gerund means, number one, it looks like a continuous form or a present participle form, because gerund always takes ing at the end, but the difference from present continuous or present participle is that it functions like a noun. So, verb plus noun, this simultaneous function is completed or accomplished by gerund. So, how is it different from present participle? Present participle, this is derived from verb, and gerund also derived from verb, but present participle functions as an adjective, whereas gerund functions as a noun. And what about continuous form? It acts neither like an adjective nor a noun. It acts just like a verb, not less nor more than this. So, continuous form, gerund form, and participle form, all these take ing at the end, but they are different in their functions. Continuous only acts like a verb and is governed by any of the auxiliaries and denotes an action in progress, whereas present participle or any participle, but I am especially talking about here present participle, because only present participle takes ing. As you get confused, that is why I am trying to clarify. Present participle also takes ing, but is not governed by any auxiliary like the continuous, and it functions as an adjective, whereas gerund also takes an ing form, but it acts like a noun. These are the differences and the similarities. Dear students, let us stop here today. We hope we will be able to resume our discussion in future classes. Thank you very much.